watchers, runners, and gods of the time stream. Look to your left and grab your flute. Look to your right and grab your favorite beverage. Conjure a table, take a seat at Bingle and Loving It, and join us to talk about all things Lily Dumblestuck. Yes, that's right. I'm super, super excited and happy that today we get to take a deep dive into our favorite beach gnome, Lily Dumblestuck, who, in my opinion, is arguably one of the most mysterious heroes of Bingle. And what I mean by that is so much has happened to the party, so much has happened in this adventure, so much has happened to her personally. But what is Lily thinking? How is she feeling? And how is she processing everything that's happened to her? So I'm hoping we get to answer some of these questions today and just gain more insight into not only her character, but the actress herself. So without further ado, let's bring on the charming, the charismatic, and the witty Katie Michels.
Hi, mysterious Lily Dumblestuck. I love that.
You don't think she's one of the more mysterious?
I guess I just don't feel like that's ever how people describe her to me, anyway.
Well, surprise!
Well, it's starting with a surprise.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got to keep you on your toes too, Katie.
I love it. Oh, I'm terrified to be here.
Well, I think you're one of the more mysterious ones. I remember the last time I got to speak to you sort of like this was the 1-year anniversary stream.
Yeah.
Almost a year ago now. And I asked you, it was around the time the Steel and Bone episode.
Yeah.
With the war and everything. And I asked you what was Lily going through and how was she processing being right in the middle of the battle. And you were like, I'm not sure. Maybe she hasn't, kind of like leaving it mysteriously open. So much has happened to Katie, right? But so much has happened to Lily since then. So I thought we would hit a home run right at the start and kind of backtrack to the beginning, well, the middle, I guess, of the timeline era where you met the, I think, kind of sassy and amazing dragon Nonezaron. I really want to hear from you, not only what Katie was going through, but what was Lily going through when you had to answer the tough question of to save the boy or not.
Well, that was a wild episode.
Yeah.
Such a wild side quest.
Right, I was like,
you can call that a side quest. Katie in the moment was like terrified because I didn't actually know Jeff was going to ask us or how that was all such a surprise to me. Mm-hmm. There's very few episodes where I feel like I was like, I think this is where we're going. And I'm usually totally wrong. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Lily, I really do think you saw it. I mean, she knew, I don't really think there was a choice for her. I think she knew what she had to do as far as saving the boy, because we had kind of talked about the timeline and things being different. Mm-hmm. She didn't want that to be the answer. She didn't want that to be her. Like, Lily has a pretty good compass of like right and wrong. Mm-hmm. Pretty good. She can be wrong, of course, but it stinks when your compass of what's right doesn't match up with what your heart wants to do.
Right.
Even though Lily's not a vengeful person, so that was the tricky thing for me as Katie to be like, would she? But she definitely would. I mean, her family was tortured.
Right. Well, and I find it interesting because even when they spoke to Nonezaron the second time with the group, she didn't answer.
Yeah.
Lily, please say something.
I can't answer this question for us.
Yeah.
Was she still thinking the same thing? Or was it just kind of like, what was she thinking in that moment? Because the only one that actually gave an answer was Civ.
Right. I don't think, I don't think she was ready to answer. Because Lily was in that moment, I think, the one person who really felt like she lost either way.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where she realized the timeline, all that was happening so fast, you know, it all happened so fast that she was like, oh, if we mess up the timeline, then this doesn't happen. And potentially the world is worse. Most definitely the world is probably going to be worse. Or I can save my family from this and Bingo from this suffering. But what other suffering does that cause? It was just, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a real life situation. No, none of us have had to make that kind of real life
right
decision. But yeah, I really don't think she was ready to answer. I think she needed more time, which she didn't have.
I love how she kind of stuck her ground though. Like I love how she wasn't ready to answer, so she just did it.
Yeah.
And like you said, because it was such a personal choice, the spotlight was on her. And I think it takes a certain quality of person to all eyes on you, all spotlights on you, and you're still just like, yep, you know, like
yeah,
like even Sid, you could tell.
Lily's
right. Because you could even see Sid in the moment. He was like, I'm just, you know, all of them were like, we have to answer. And it does. It takes a certain like quality for someone to just be like, not ready. You're not getting it. So, yeah. Especially standing in front of a dragon, you know. It's a thing.
Yeah, there's so many times in those moments, just RP-wise, where I have to be like, like, I know Lily really well, but then you also have to remember, like, what is my family history? What have I been raised in? What are my tenets of, like, my morals as not just Lily, but my family morals? And I think the Dumblestucks are very, words mean something. Communication is important. What you say affects things. And so I like to think Lily was raised with the understanding that you can not speak and that's okay because what you say is going to matter.
Yeah, and that moment tenfold, right? In theory,
it was a wild moment for Lily, but also for Katie, because I really wasn't expecting that. You know, that was nowhere in my mind that we were going to meet a time dragon.
Right. And I'm not surprised by Lily's overall answer, like when she answered it, because like you said, I think you've done a great job at showing, you know, Lily is the moral compass. Like you said, she's still a person. We all make mistakes, but she really, it's not like she's wavering. We all know at the end of the day what Lily would probably do. But there were moments in leading up to that point where Lily would say, I really want to hurt this boy. I can't remember what episode it was, but you really said that, and it was like, uh-oh, is this where her shift is? Is this where she teeters a little bit? I mean...
Yeah. I mean, I think she did teeter a little bit, because for the first time, I'm trying to think if there's a... But this was one of the first time where Lily has had to check herself, her moral compass for herself, in the fact that whatever she does isn't ideal. There is no clear, this is the right choice. And it's much harder to remove yourself from something that's so personal.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, it was about her family and her friends and it was about her. And normally I think Lily's able to take herself out of the situation and be like, let's look at this in the grand scheme of things. What's going on? Why are we really upset? But right now it's like, why am I really upset? Because he tried to kill my entire family, and he killed a lot of the people on my hometown, from my hometown. Right.
Can't get more personal than that.
Yes. That was I think that's probably the most personal betrayal she's had to, like, maneuver.
Yeah, and then being in front of Chomel. Yeah, I just wanted you to know, like, I think your moral compass is pretty, I think you show it beautifully, but it was kind of, you know, in a way exciting to see her, what's going to happen? But like any, you know.
I will say, like, because we had weeks where I was thinking about it, and I didn't know, like, Katie had to take time to be like, but ultimately when it came down to it, I think that Lily would only make one choice with the information that she was given.
Okay. So on that note, I do kind of want to backtrack because when you said, I think that's the only time that Lily's really been tested. Probably, I think that's like the biggest one, right? Like, and kudos to you for just really just being in those emotions because that's probably not easy for you or Lily, right? But I want to kind of backtrack to the famous sea hag incident.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know if she was teetering so much, but that was arguably the first time Lily has just let her emotions show.
Yeah.
Oh
What is happening? No!
Wow.
I don't know any of you. Let me talk. That sea hag got let free. That sea hag was the one who almost killed me. And then you killed those two innocent men, and I'm not saying they were good men. I am not saying that. But we came in here, we came into their house, and we didn't even try. We didn't even try to fix this another way. This was supposed to be a fun thing to release the sea hag, and we could have done it without killing anyone. But we didn't, did we? No. And I will leave.
Yeah.
Can you talk just a little bit about what you and Lily were thinking about when that happened?
I think that was as a very cute observation of that. It was like the first time I feel like she was the strong opposition to the rest of her party. Right? That was the first time where Lily was like, no, I don't agree with this, and everyone else seems to agree with this, and I don't. Because normally I feel like we've had disagreements where maybe I'll go and I feel one way, and James and Civ and Fahima feel one way, or Fahima and I feel one way, and Civ and I'll feel one way, and James is in the middle. Like we have much more split decisions, which in a way we can have a dialogue about in a different, like that's more mediation, I think, for Lily to like see both sides. But this, to her, there was no both sides. We had crossed a very clear line in her mind.
And how did she move past that yet? Like, or is she still subconsciously like?
No, it's still, it's funny because that is something that I have not forgotten, and it hasn't come back up because then we kind of jumped into like other stuff and we got, prioritized things, but it's definitely still something she thinks about as far as like aligning yourself with people that you want different opinions in your life, obviously, but aligning yourself with morals that you feel comfortable with. And
so in that moment, she was actually for the first time uncomfortable with her group, would you say?
Yeah. For the first time, I felt like, we've crossed over into not doing things, like we've made mistakes that have been genuine, or we've approached things and killed people, obviously, but it's been in a fight situation. And this is the first time we just, in her mind, took innocent lives without justification. And that was it was triggering for her. It was I don't want to be a part of that. That's not okay.
Yeah, and I would assume more triggering so the fact that at least half the party stood their ground on the decisions that they made. It wasn't just we all made a mistake, right? There were a few party members who were
unresolved. That's an unresolved argument that we had.
But Katie/Lily has not forgotten that.
No. Oh no. Never forget.
Never forget. Well, that's interesting because I honestly personally was curious because, like you said, as a viewer, is it that, Lily's kind of adjusted to it, moved on, or is it, no, it's here. There's just so much happening. We'll come back. Like, it was always kind of like, what's going on? I don't know. So that is interesting.
I think it is also a tricky thing of like, ultimately, I think Lily knows or likes to think that everyone there still has a good heart. And we are, for the most part, on the same page. So she's able to like, okay, there's pressing things, we're moving on, we're doing this stuff. And that is something that you bring up, but in order to, as you know, like in order to bring up something that is going to raise tension and emotions, you have to find the right time to do it. And you have to find the right way to do it, or else it's just going to create another argument, which does no good.
Which it's not like they don't have other things that they're currently working out in the process.
There's a few things going on.
Just here and there. It happens. So
And
on
Lily
that,
does know, like, if you raise people's tensions, even though she was very mad, and is still, I think, mad and honestly probably concerned that was the outcome of what happened there. She also knows that bringing it up at the wrong time will solve nothing. Because
really,
people were very set in their ways.
right. Okay. So on that note, when it comes to moving forward with everything that happened with the Ashen Mage and Fahima, I where was Lily really standing when it came to, was she fearful that Fahima was going to teeter, being one of the people who were very much on opposing ends of Lily in that, argument?
Yeah.
How was Lily thinking about everything that transpired with the Ashen Mage?
Yeah, I think she was terrified. I think also, like, the blood magic stuff had already kind of started happening prior to that, and that really, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That really freaked her out initially too, and felt dark. It felt darker than anything else we had done.
You can do it. You can heal her. You just have to let your blood out. You just have to let your own blood out, and you can do it.
I take that quill that I had conjured, and I slice.
What are you doing?
I'm sorry. Just let me finish.
That up in the air, and you see bits of your own crimson blood for just a second, and it almost turns into a fine mist and goes into the bruise in Lily's arm.
And I think she was very fearful. I think she trusts Fahima to ultimately make the right decision, but she was scared that it wasn't going to be the decision she wanted to make.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it made, for me personally as a viewer, what made it harder was the fact that it wasn't like you took Lily and put her in that position where she's had very set, this is where I stand. Right. You took someone who was, a teenager coming into her own, very unclear where her morals stood, very, very open about that she had no idea where her line was, and put her in that position.
And has a very big vulnerability with her father,
Definitely.
And the want to reconnect and find him, which is something that can be manipulated, because there is so much unknown there for Fahima and Jessica, as far as what his deal is, basically. Where is he?
Right. So at the end of the day, Lily was just really holding on to the fact that Fahima would do the right thing.
Yeah. I think that was all she could do. But I do think she was definitely fearful. And because it's a hard situation for anyone, no matter how mature or whatever, if you're being toyed with. And we had no idea what was going on other than that once she told us a little bit. But
okay. So going back to focusing on Lily, maybe besides the known as a wrong thing, because I feel like that might just be the most obviously pressing, but maybe besides that, up until this point, what has been the most challenging thing for Lily in this journey, and how do you think she has grown the most as a person?
For Lily, great question. I think all these moments where she grew up in a place where right and wrong was pretty clear. Mm-hmm. Like, she had a pretty dreamy island life.
Yeah.
Like, you've had too many drinks, you leave the bar. Like, there's like clear rules for stuff. And that said, she's good at the minutia of things. But gosh, what's the most challenging? I think the most challenging for her is the managing of relationship and expectations that is, even when she doesn't feel like she's in her best pot, because she doesn't have any place to recharge on her own. She doesn't have any place to. She doesn't have her grandma. Like, this is the first time in her life where Lily hasn't had Grammy to, like, check in with You know, it's her first big
adventure.
She's young.
Yeah.
So it's her first big adventure. So managing those real life things that it's an amalgamation of all those little, like the Uggo Civ moment where she was like, oh, they're not leaving Bingle. Now I still want to be their friends and I still have to adventure with them and I want to adventure with them.
Right.
I need to like figure this out. And just all those like grown up, I think it's really like making the grown up decisions for her about herself and her own opinions that aren't mediating other people's opinions. So I think like her sticking her ground is a good thing to point out because she hasn't had to do that a lot with them.
Would you say that that's hard for her with this group at least? Would you say that that's hard for her?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's not hard in the sense that she knows she's really, really in touch with her moral compass, but it's hard in the sense that she's the one disagreeing. She's not mediating disagreement. She's the one disagreeing.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? So like,
no, it does. It does. It's easy when you're facilitating. Yeah, you're a third person facilitating a match. Basically, the difference in a metaphor of being the coach versus playing in the sports game.
Yeah, and I think so many of the other problems were about feelings and that kind of stuff. She's so much more comfortable with managing, but when it comes to like straight up death, she hasn't had to deal with that.
Right. Okay. So how do you think she's grown the most up until this point?
I think she's grown the most she can't make everybody happy all the time.
Oh.
And that's hard for her, I think.
So you think she's like, that's been her biggest realization?
I don't think she's necessarily okay with it.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah.
That's huge to process when, like you said, you come from a happy-go-lucky place of law and order where everybody...
Yeah. And it's not even like, of course she had adversity. Again, she works at a bar, so like you're going to throw people out. You're going to have people who don't like their order. Like you have that kind of adversity, but like within the group, she's not going to make everybody happy all the time. Within her family, she's not going to make everybody happy. And the first time she didn't really make everybody happy was when she left Bingle, which Grammy encouraged her to do, but her family was very trepidatious about that. So like that was but ultimately they were supportive. Where that's not always the case in all the decisions we've made. We always haven't been on the same page.
Yeah. That must be tough though. Mm-hmm. So then, but on the shoe on the other foot, what's been the hardest thing for you playing Lily Dumblestuck?
Me playing... I think, gosh, that's a great question. What has been the hardest thing for me? The moments of surprise where I don't know what she would do are hard for me as Katie, because I feel like Lily would actually know. And I'm truly as Katie being like, what would Lily do? What would Lily do? What would Lily do? What would Lily do here? Because she's wiser than I am. Well, let's be honest. So there's been a few moments when I was surprised by things and Katie was like, oh, how do I play this? I know how I would do this, but that's not what Lily would do. Mm-hmm. That's been hard for me. Another thing that's been hard for me is keeping Lily positive and chipper and not condescending. Because I think there's a weird thing about being like the lesson teacher that can quickly get like, okay, sit down, Lily. I don't think it's kind of, but you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you say that because there's been, for me, the top 3 Lily moments that stood out for me the most was actually when you said that as Lily in one of the more recent episodes. I think it was right after you guys separated with Fahima. Lily did just randomly say, I know I come off very condescending sometimes. And I really, Lily, that really stuck with me. I was like, oh, like Lily is, trying to see how other people see her possibly and like try. I found that interesting when you said that in the show. So it's funny you say that now. Does Lily think she comes off that way?
I think she's learned that from this adventure. I think people, I imagine that in situations like Lem, the bartender, who was like not charmed by her at all, was just like
very hot bartender.
Yeah, bartender. He was like, I'm too hot for you. And so she's learned in that moment of like, oh, this isn't me being helpful here because there's some other effect that's happening. So in my mind, in side conversations, she's had discussions with people. Be like, how does that make you feel? She wants to know. I think what I love about Lily is she's so curious. She's curious about how people work. She's curious about how people interact, or like, I think she's very fascinated by the deception that Civ has, and she's learned from that. Like I tried to play in this when we were starting the heist, spoiler, when I went to negotiate the gold, I was like, okay, Lily has now been watching Civ for months.
Yeah.
So she's learned, like, this is not her normal deception. This is going to be Lily, but channeling the inner Civ here.
Okay. So for funsies, can you name a moment or a decision made in the show where Katie would have made a different decision than Lily?
Oh, wow. You really hit hard-hitting questions, and I love it.
Okay. You want to skip?
You're like the Jeff of Talkback Show.
Totally. I will take it. Thank you.
This is the Nez round of questions. Where I would have made a different decision. Yeah. I would have never left Bingle.
Forget all you guys.
Go be on the island. It was beautiful beach town. What a great family. I'm sure there are moments, and I think really the biggest thing of that is Lily seems to find her cool in situations of panic, where I feel like I hope I would make that decision, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd have the wherewithal to like put the earring in and call Torvald as I'm falling through the air.
Okay.
Oh, I know that's not
maybe if your life was dependent on it, I'm sure you maybe do something.
It is crazy what adrenaline does to us. The lift the car moments.
Yeah.
Okay. Where else?
Because you said that there were.
I'm going to think about this more, because I feel like there's definitely been moments, and I just can't think of one off the top of my head that is.
No pressure. Pressure. We'll go something too.
It's such a good question.
I'm hoping this will be a fun topic for you, because I don't know if you know this, but my favorite thing about Lily is I really truly do love every time you sing a song. I love it. I really do. I'm a sucker for any type of like creativeness, right? Whether it be Sip's poems or your songs. I just genuinely love it. And so for you, one, because I know now that you only originally did that because you thought that's what bards did. And I love how you're like, oh man, what? So, like, you mean I didn't have to like set the bar so high?
Honestly, I was just embarrassed. I got home and I was like, oh, they all didn't expect me to do that.
But it's great. No, and I think that's, again, as far as for me, it's putting in 110%. Because I'm sure by now, which by the way, you and I'm technically more of a noob at D&D than you are, for the record. But, I think by now I've kind of caught on that in a lot of D&D games, it's just, and then I sang a song and then I did this. But, but for you to really, it's for me, like I said, it's like giving 110%. And I'm all about the passion. I'm all about taking the time. And one, you're super creative and you're talented. So it's just like, I love that you do that. And I'm glad, even though you were like, whoopsie, I'm glad you still do that. So I'm wondering for you, is that something that's easy for you? Like to come up with songs? Like, is it something you enjoy to do still 70 something episodes in?
I do.
Okay, good.
I do very much enjoy it. Actually, I'm not a songwriter. I've never really done that. The first couple I wrote were just those little like, welcome to Bingle, like very short little stanzas that I was like, this will be fun and like a cute little thing. And then it quickly became something people like seem to want more of. So it was fun. And it really informed Lily to me. Like that's her communication. She can write a song for anything.
I love it.
I really enjoy it. It's fun for me in the Warden song, for example.
So basically, this is what happened. Wardens protecting us all in the sky. Once noble war heroes, their memories die.
Well, it's fun for me to think of her and think, okay, so she's a lore bard, so her whole being is telling stories and spreading stories throughout the land. And in my mind, Grammy was that. Grammy was always telling us stories and weaving these tales. And I think Grammy is Lily's role model. She looks up to her so much. And so it's been fun. I try and play it like that. It's like, how can I pop this moment?
Bringing good to the world, we promise to try. That's about it.
A true bard.
I love it. I love it. I don't know if you caught this on one of the watch parties, but the Tale of the Viscount is my favorite. Well, because I sang it in your.
Oh my
but
god!
I love that song, the Warden song.
Video.
I can't stress enough. Scully is my homegirl, and I always geek out after you sing a song. We're the ones that have put most of your songs on the wiki. I mean, we're in it. We're in it to win it.
I'm so actually the song I think the last song I sang, the one at the dinner with the guy, so bad. They used it in a video just recently, and I was like, I messed up the lyrics, so it doesn't rhyme in one part, and it drives me nuts.
And they're like, that's the poster.
I messed up the lyrics, but I had the thing, and I'm as I've said many times, I'm dyslexic, so it's very easy for me to switch things around. So
I knew that.
Yeah, so I usually try and practice them ahead of time, but when I write them during the show or to kind of answer your other question, it is fun for me, but motivation strikes at seemingly the weirdest times. So sometimes I've written so many right before the show because it's like I've worked on a different one all week, and then I have all of a sudden I would be driving to the studio and be like, oh, that's it. That's the thing. Even though I've worked all week on this other thing, this is so much better.
I love that, though. I think that's pretty, that's how I'm assuming, not that I would know, but I'm assuming that's how it works for bards too, right? Like they feel the inspiration in the moment.
Yeah.
When you did the Warden song on the spot, I can't stress enough. It was just like, yeah, you were like, I'm a bard telling the story. It was wonderful. It was beautiful.
I was very nervous for that, though, because it is very different having something in your head and singing it out loud. And I've also done it in shows and it's not worked out. So that one is like a good example of it. And then I've done it before where I'm like, we'll move on.
Well, it was great. It was such a wonderful moment to such a impactful. It was such a great follow-up to an already impactful moment. It was an icing on the cake. But I did want to ask you.
Weave such a beautiful tale with that, right?
Yeah. You helped make that tale. Like it was a perfect.
What do you play in your D&D campaign?
What do I what?
What do you play?
I play a ranger.
I love rangers.
I play a dwarf ranger.
Yeah.
I've literally only played once, so I was like, I'm gonna do something easy. So what people tell me is easy. Anyway.
The new ranger stuff from online?
No.
Because I played Gus, and I remember when I was making, I was like, I want to play Ranger, and I was making it, and then I realized that there's errata, or they kind of expanded the Ranger section of 5e, and there's things that make them much more powerful and fun if you look it up. I'll try and send it to you actually, maybe.
You should, because I would love to be more powerful and fun.
Yeah, because they kind of in the initial book kind of got underdeveloped, I guess. They don't have as much.
That's what I heard.
They're a little underpowered compared to a lot of other.
Yeah. So is playing a ranger still your favorite, by the way?
Oh, so different. It was so different. I liked it. It was. I mean, I love Lily. Lily's really my first like long D&D character. So she's so close to she is my heart. But but Gus was also just. I wanted to play something the polar opposite of Lily.
Right.
Yeah, Ranger is totally different. It's a totally different method in a fight. It's totally different to be non-charismatic and like I run up and hit things.
So overall, you have how has the dungeon run, obviously being one of your first times playing, how has your interest or your clearly obviously again better than mine, but like how has your love, I just put that word on you, how has like your experience with D&D changed since the dungeon run? There you go.
Love is right.
Okay.
I just think honestly, my perception of what D&D is has shifted, because I think, at least for me, I was around it in the periphery growing up. I was in theater growing up, and a couple of my girlfriends and I would like make characters, but we wouldn't like actually make them. We would just like talk about like, I'm going to be an elf and I'm going to be like, her brother had like a D&D book and we did that like a few times. And I was like, this is fun, but it seems very complicated. And then I played one-off and it just seemed very complicated, and it did. It seemed, I was like, there's so many rules and there's all these numbers, and how do I know what
I'm done.
Throw? What's a regular? Like what's a D10? Like I really didn't know any of that. It's all basic stuff, but there is a lot.
Oh yeah.
Get in there. And I will say, because this was told to me a lot when I was beginning, like it's easy. And I agree with that, but it is also, to be fair to beginners, there's a lot of information right up front.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you get right up front.
And not everybody is good at taking, even though they're simple, not a lot of people like having 100 simple rules thrown at you at the same time, like.
Well, and so much of it is dependent on your DM, right? And how your table plays and how well you know people. And role-playing is very vulnerable, and is very hard. It's hard to get into it's hard to RP if you don't feel like you created a character that you connect to, or like, and that's all a learning process. But my love of it has, I think, grown exponentially because I have realized that while honestly a lot of that stuff is still overwhelming to me, that the stories that you can tell and the endless possibilities of adventure that you can go on is so fun. Like it's so cool. It's so cool to be able to just sit down for 4 hours with friends and tell a totally original story that follows a narrative, and sometimes it's all over the place, and that's okay. But and the rules help ground it in reality, so I appreciate the rules. The rules do, as much as I'm a rule of cool for life. There is something to be said of like, okay, yeah, but my armor class is this, or yeah, but I am 3 foot, like, so that comes into play here,
Right.
And I think that helps ground it. So long-winded answer to your question. I think understanding that it's really about the storytelling expanded my love for it so much.
I think I'm in a similar boat for me. Like I didn't grow up around anyone who played D&D or anything, but little understanding I have was there's a lot of math, there's a lot of rules.
Yeah.
It's more of it's in my mind at the time, for the longest time, it was just, it's a mechanical game. That was it. And it was truly the dungeon run that taught me the same lesson. I was like, oh wait, there's storytelling. Hold on, huh? What? Like truly, and I was like, wait, there's more to it than just the math, the numbers, the mechanics, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was drawn in by the storytelling aspect of it because I didn't even know it existed. And then not only you go from not knowing it existed to just how wonderful you guys all do, right? Like it's just like, well, here you go with the best story in front of you first, and it was just. So I'm
very spoiled that I started with Jeff as my
right. No, yeah, and I feel the same way about like being exposed. I mean, this was my first D&D show. This was my first exposure to D&D. I also feel very spoiled, so I get it, very different ways, but I really do get it. So I definitely feel you on kind of just learning more about the role-playing aspect of D&D, and then be like, okay, now I'm not as afraid to dive in. Like, the rest can come later. I'm in the story. I'm into the role play.
Also, it's been around for so long, and there's people that know it so well.
That's true.
I don't know about you. There's no question that I'm a nerd, but I get really bad nerd imposter syndrome. Like, really, really, I feel like, oh, I don't know enough about this lore, or I don't know enough about this thing or this backstory, or I don't know enough about D&D as a whole entity of books, and so I get intimidated by that kind of stuff.
You're not, I've never thought of it as nerd imposter, but I do get that too, because every time everyone's like, no, Jess, you know how to play. And I'm like, no. I'm a beginner. I still don't know. And they're like, you've been playing in a campaign for months. No. I promise. Because I do feel that way. It's like, there's so much I feel I should know at this point, and I don't. So no. As far as anyone asks, I'm a beginner. Don't worry about it.
And Jeff just said it the other day, because I was like, I'm new. And he's like, you're not new anymore. You don't get to say that anymore. You've played every week for 2 years. You're not new.
It's true. So I totally get that, because everyone's still like, no, Jess, you're not. And I'm like, no, put me in the new category. I do. I feel that way, because I think similar. I'm just like, no. If it were up to me, I would know so much more, and I don't. So I'll sit over here.
Yeah. I mean, and also, like, when I'm sitting next to Ron, who really does it back and forth, that's also not like a comparison of.
It's true. You're not sitting with people at the same level regardless, right? Like,
also, what also really helped me on the show, I will say, was sitting next to Ron and seeing Ron, who I know is like an encyclopedia of D&D, say, oh, actually, what does this spell do? Oh, actually, let me check the rules on that. That was such a gift that I don't think he gave me, because it made me think, okay, I can ask questions, and it's not going to make me look. It's not going to slow down the whole show. It's not going to make everybody roll their eyes that I didn't do my homework. Because what I was afraid of when I started was like, I like did a bunch of reading, and I was like, oh my, I got to learn everything about D&D now. And now that you've played, like, that's impossible. There's discussion about what phrasing means. Like, there's minutia within it, and so, but having a really skilled player ask questions about rules and technical stuff did make me feel like I can breathe. I can ask a question and it's fine.
Good. I feel the similar. I do. I feel like inspiration from you, actually. Story comes first. You can learn as you go, and I think that helped, because I didn't start playing till this year, so I really had that attitude.
I'm guessing you didn't start playing in January.
Oh well, you're right. Okay, 2020, whatever. Yeah.
Whatever.
But
all been one long year.
It's all relative. What is time anymore? But no, like, yeah, I think taking inspiration from you, where it was just like, you know, even though you say you were nervous, you didn't come off that way. So it was very like, she doesn't know what she's doing, so I can do this too, right? Like, if she's a beginner, she can make it work with these long-term professional D&D players, then so can I. You know, so you're inspiring to a lot of us.
Thanks. I mean, it helps that everybody's so nice on the show too.
I'm sure that does help, right? You're like you said, your group and your DM, they all impact it and make it easier for you also.
But you will see me get panicked when Jeff hands out those new character sheets in episode 6.
I think I did see kind of like
just gotten a hold of Lily. I have just figured out where on my sheet my saving throws are. So you're going to hand me a new sheet with new stats?
How dare you?
I can't.
Hilarious. That thing, it was just an hour.
It's such a cool idea. Now I would be very excited about it, but at the time I was like, this is my nightmare.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad you feel, you know, so much more relaxed and just chill now. I mean, it has been 2 years, but you never know. I'm glad that you're
my
enjoying
nightmare,
it.
but then like once we started playing, it was with him. It was fine. I just, again, asked questions.
Yeah.
It's all in our own heads about that.
It is true. It's very true.
That we put on ourselves. It's just expectations that I put on myself that weren't realistic. They weren't needed.
Mm-hmm. And that's. I think that you're right. I think that's what it is for everybody. You know, where their own insecurities lie and what insecurities they're bringing into it. You know, it's going to affect it. But with the safe group, you know,
That's
you
the
can't
number
even
one thing
overcome it.
people ask me. I was like, find people that you want to hang out with and you feel really comfortable with.
Amen. So I can't, because I can't not have a Katie Michels / Lily Dumblestuck interview without at least touching on the relationship between Lily and Civ. I can't, you know, they would kill me. I think you know that.
This would be the end of the show.
So I want to know, in the moment when Lily said, I love you for the first time, took a while to get there, which some of us aren't complaining about that. But when did Lily, can you just walk me through that? Like what Lily was going through and thinking? You know, she went from very, oh, that's cute, he thinks he loves me. He went from very that to how did she come to, okay, yeah, I do love you. And I'm pretty sure they're a thing now. So can you just kind of walk us through what Lily was going through?
Yeah, I mean, I think Lily knew that those feelings were there way before she admitted them to herself or felt comfortable expressing them. I think that Civ had he had shown that he was serious, and her fear of him leaving has dwindled. Though I think she still has it. I don't think that's like gone necessarily, especially because that happened. And then I think the drinking stuff really concerns her.
Interesting.
And her realizing that that's maybe more of a problem than she thought initially.
Interesting.
But I think she felt that for a long time, and then she was the moment. It was the moment, but I don't know how to say it. The trust that they had at that point of like, you know how I feel. He knows, like, I've been really clear in my communication about my hesitancy, and I've given it time, and he's still there with that. Because her biggest concern was, I think Lily, quite honestly, is quick to love. Like, I think I know. Who would have thought? But she knows that. I said it, I think, in a couple episodes ago, like the Dumblestucks are known for falling in love.
Oh, you did, yeah.
But I think for her, it's one of these things where this is a hard lesson for Lily, because she knows this isn't as fancy free as a bingle romance.
Right.
And where, as much as she puts it on the other people leaving, I think Lily maybe kind of likes that perk of it. Like the perk of, yeah, this is so fun, and we get that honeymoon phase, and it's great, and then you leave, and sometimes it really sucks. But also,
there's no commitment.
The commitment isn't there in the same way.
Right.
Whether she admits to herself that she likes it or not, that is something I haven't really revealed.
That was her comfort zone.
That is something that Katie had made a decision about, of like, Lily, whether she knows it or not, and I don't think she's really admitted this to herself, actually really liked that part of those romances. Because that commitment made it the lack of commitment made it much easier for those to be fun and sweet and done.
Okay. So it's almost like not necessarily all a fear of Civ and what he might do, but her own fears.
Kind of, yeah. I do think it was a balance of both of those things. But in that situation, to answer your question about that, I think at that point, Lily it had been enough time since she had been really clear, and he had been really clear, and she felt like, okay, I can say it now. I've said my hesitation. I've given you time to think about it after I've said my hesitations. You can leave. Because I did make a point. Katie made a point of like, okay, she's got to give it some time after she says that. She can't just change her mind tomorrow, because she would know that's a cruel thing to do. That's not.
Right. Lily, always thinking of others.
Yeah. I think she is still, I think there is definitely, she loves him, but there's trepidation with someone who feels like they're still finding themselves, even though we're all finding ourselves. But
Shiv is on a whole nother level. I think it's okay for us all to admit that.
yeah. And I think that is something that a biggest part of her hesitancy, even aside from the commitment stuff, is I don't know if he knows who he is yet. He's really showing those. He's been really showing that the last few
episodes.
Ooh.
Guess we'll have to stay tuned for what happens.
Layers.
I know, lots of them. And you know what? It fits because love is complicated.
Love is complicated.
Use your acronym, Lily. Use your acronym.
I got to remember that because I came up with that on the show.
Was that an on-the-spot thing? Because that's hilarious.
Yeah. I wrote it down like right beforehand. Like as they were talking, I was like, "It's going." I wrote it down.
You're like, sure, this is our what we stick to. I'm gonna write it right now.
I know, maybe I should admit that, but yes, I did come up with that right before I said it.
No, it's insight, and I love it, and I live for that. Okay, so before I let you go, I wanted to do. I've done this with everybody else, so I thought it was only fair. I want you to give me what Lily's answer is and what Katie's answer is, and I'm going to give you the list of characters in Ein, and I want Lily and Katie to give me the adjective or the phrase that comes up when I say said character.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Fahima.
Lily, strong. Katie. I think I would also say strong. I'm already bad at this.
It's easier just to do Lily.
Inspiring, honestly. Like I find Fahima as Katie so inspiring. Her ability to play a character that's finding herself is incredible. But I think Lily just looks up to how strong she is, how she is not afraid to be herself.
Okay. Torvald.
Lily, sweet. Katie, fragile.
Accurate. I can't say anything but accurate. The Dwarf King.
The Dwarf King. Oh, Lily. Could use some work. Katie. I don't want to hang out with him.
He's irrelevant. Moving on. Dondo.
Lily. Mysterious. Dondo's very mysterious.
He is.
To Lily. And to Katie, but really to Lily. And then to Katie, I find Dondo very sexy.
Right? He is. Thank you.
Something about his wisdom and yeah.
Right? There's just something about him.
Yeah.
Okay. It's nice to feel validated.
Okay.
So on that note, Whitebeard.
Oh, Whitebeard. Oh gosh. I feel like my feed's just gonna go blank after however I answer this. Lily,
answer honestly. I may not kill you. It's fine.
Lily to Whitebeard, which kind of has evolved, but I would say her word for him is lost.
Oh.
And for
my soul.
Katie, I think Whitebeard is bitter.
I think both of those are pretty good words.
Yeah.
Okay. Last two, I promise.
Okay. This is fun.
I think so. Salvage Manders.
Lily, charming. Katie, hilarious. I think they're the funniest characters, and that I will never get over the voice. Jeff's so good at it. I don't understand how it happens or works.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't either. It's science, but we'll have to figure it out together. I don't know.
Science. That's a good thing for you guys to do.
And last but not least, the Ashen Mage.
The Ashen Mage. Lily? Honestly, evil.
Ooh, okay.
I would just say dark. She's shady.
You don't think she's a misunderstood kitten?
I feel like she's no.
I tried.
I'm the only one that Lily's like pretty objectively from what she's seen. And again, I think my Whitebeard answer has changed from episode whatever that was, 10 or remember to because she's spent more time with Whitebeard.
Okay, well now I have to ask you what your original answer would have been just in episode 10 or if it was
Whitebeard
12. Yeah. How can I not ask you?
I think it would have been just mean.
Oh, okay.
Mean, like because of the animal fighting and the joy in people's seeming joy in others' pain. So Lily felt like cruel and mean, but now I think that she's had more time with him. She just feels like he's lost. Like he just doesn't. He's like a scared little boy inside an old man's body.
I get that though. I really do. No, Lily.
He's compensating. Like she's. I feel like at any moment, Wiper's gonna have like a real good cry.
How do you know he's not already having cry backstage? You don't know what he's doing.
I like things backstage.
Backstage in his little quarters by himself.
I like to think that's how he pumps himself up to go talk to his crew.
He's just gives it all out.
Get it together.
As you know, I love that man.
What's FailWaffle?
My FailWaffle answer would be madly in love. And then my Jess answer would be the same as Jared's. I find him hilarious. Yeah. I think he's just the definition of like, he's just a thorn in your guys' side, and I love it. Like he's just this chaotic guy who's just, what the heck is he doing?
He's such a grumpy grandpa. He's just like a Whitebeard.
Right, yeah. So Jess finds him hilarious, and then FailWaffle's obviously madly in love with him on so many levels.
So many levels.
So many.
That is the great love of this story is that.
It was always you, FailWaffle. Always.
I mean, I'd like to think so. I think right now we're the couple that's doing the best, arguably.
You are. Very strong. Strong. Seemingly lowest drama.
Both very clear how we feel about each other.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is aware of how we feel about each other.
Excellent at long distance relationships.
Yeah, and you've seen how loyal we are to each other in a long distance relationship yourself.
Yeah.
It's just the definition of true love. I think that you can learn something from our relationship.
Yeah, I'm studying it, really.
And you're welcome.
Quite a lesson in commitment.
Yeah. And, I still haven't, even in death, man, I'm very committed.
Very committed. So sweet.
Katie, thank you so much for taking the time. Truly, I am very honored, grateful, and just so happy that you took the time to hang out with me today. I thought it was fun. So
I had the best time. Thank you so much for having me and doing the show, which is just the best.
You're the best, Katie.
Also, what an excellent interviewer you are. I know I've already been on your show a little bit, but this is the first time I've done one-on-one with you.
Yeah.
Really good question. Stumped me on my own character, just like thought-provoking wise. I'm going to think about this.
Well, maybe since you said you wanted to think about it, maybe you can get back to me with that one answer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to.
We'll see.
I have to rewatch episodes now and be like,
what was it? I need to know what I would have done differently.
I mean, I feel there are moments that I just can't think of.
Yeah. I apologize for putting you on the spot, but not.
No,
really.
Oh, don't. I love it. It also is like one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I have one, but I don't.
You're like
no, I don't have one.
Well, you were amazing. Maybe, potentially, since you liked it so much, we'll do it again sometime.
Yes,
Maybe.
please.
We'll see. And with that, Katie, let's end this the way that we always do, the way Jeff has taught us to do. Hope you guys stay tuned in for whatever comes next with us, with her, with everyone and everything. And until next time, guys, humankind.
Be both.
Be both.